Okay, we are live. We are now live, guys. So, we're going to do a quick review of Civil War by A24 Productions. And we're going to do like a little bit of a deep dive into the movie. So, there are going to be major spoilers. If you guys
Yeah,
don't
big
want,
spoilers.
yeah, if you guys don't want any spoilers, so we're warning you right now. Any spoilers, like if you don't want any spoilers right now, get off the stream. Get off right now. Like don't watch. Watch the movie first, then come back here. But for those of you who are interested in having the movie spoiled, well, fine. That's on you. So we will do major spoilers here. All right. So, Not a Spy. Did you enjoy the movie?
Yeah, I did enjoy it. My expectations went completely out the window. It was nowhere near what I like, not about anything I expected it to be. Truth be told, I didn't know what to expect. So entering into it and seeing it be about like a film that is not about the Civil War at all. It's a backdrop. That's a bold move, Cotton. That's a very bold move. And honestly, I quite respect it. Playing up all of this hype and then just having that almost just be kind of a backdrop. Really enjoyed that. The film was well made. The actors were pretty good. Kirsten Dunst, of course, was Kirsten Dunst. So I was very happy when she got shot in the back by the FBI. Um, and yeah, I think that sums it up. Shorthand. How about yourself?
Okay, so I just tell people the same thing that I told before. It's an okay movie. So it's not great. It's not horrible. It's just okay.
Yeah, it's totally not like this comes to the this is it fallacy. I'm creating a fallacy, right? Where every single time anything happens, people try to act like if it's not literally the second coming of Christ, then it's nothing or it's bad. Like it's okay to just have like a mid movie that kind of normalizes the concept of balkanization, right? And that's it. It doesn't need to be deep. We had the same thing with the Barbie movie, which you have a lot of idiots shooting themselves in the foot saying, it's subversive, it's not good. Shut up, just enjoy it, right? The Barbie movie is a wonderful film for men's rights. Civil War movie is a wonderful film for normalizing the concept of balkanization and states' rights. It's not going to change the world. It's practically an indie movie. People need to have reasonable expectations. What do you think?
Yeah. What I think is that I expected the movie to have like some level, some sort of degree of wokeness, and at the same time, I was also expecting a lot of big battles, a lot of violence.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there was violence, but just not in the way that I expected it to be.
It was
Yeah.
very Yugoslav war style in the violence.
Yes. Now, if you watch the trailer, now the actual major, they show a major battle only at the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah,
battle for the Capitol.
just at the end of the
There
movie.
is another battle that they show, but it's really small, and yeah, it's like underwhelming. And then
It's
the last battle is also not so big, but if you followed like the movie, if you watched the movie from beginning to end, then you're kind of satisfied with the battle at the end. But let's
yeah,
just say,
honestly.
but I'm
Oh,
saying
go
that
on.
if you watch the trailer, if you're watching the trailer and you're super hyped, and then you skip the entire movie and you only start off at the battle, you'll be disappointed.
Oh
Because
yeah,
you're
totally, totally.
assuming this is the battle for the Capitol, but in the movie they kind of explain why it's not going to be a big epic battle for the Capitol.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very bold. I mean, I don't make commercials, so I'm not going to, I'm not a marketing guy. I'm not going to criticize them on overhyping the amount of violence, but I do find it wise that if they probably overhyped the amount of violence to get Americans in the theater. Why? Because Americans love violence. Any film that is violent, the American crowds are going to rush to, right? Um, But also on top of that, if it was just a Michael Bay action movie, honestly, I would have lost interest. You know, it loses the emotion, the interest in it. Uh, to where at the end, when you see Nick Offerman pulled out from under his desk and shot in the head, um, it would have been very different if it was the movie that a lot of people expected, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and like we mentioned, the movie's okay, right? So like it's not
Oh
something
yeah,
big.
yeah.
What I appreciate about the movie is that it was not overtly woke.
Hmm.
It was more like a late '90s liberal movie. It was not.
That's a good way to
Yeah.
describe it. It was kind of like, actually, I was gonna compare it to the HBO Civil War movie. I believe I've mentioned that one, but that one is way more based. It has a lot more basedness in it compared to the A24 one. The A24 one is very, very neutral. Is that a good way to describe it?
Yes. It was very neutral because they did not explain who's really fighting for what ideology.
Hmm. Oh yeah, yeah. Good way to put it.
Yeah, it's just showing like a scenario of what like a civil war could look like.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and
I, I
there were scenes where like they're not wars, like they're not scenes where there is active battles. They're just showing how like the economy's wrecked. They're showing how people value Canadian dollars over U.S.
hmm
dollars.
Yep. Social trust is completely annihilated. The economy is wrecked. Nobody trusts anyone because anyone could be violent, kind of thing. And it really does it shows balkanization in the United States perfectly, perfectly, especially with the Jesse Plemons scene. That one was like, what did you think about that one?
Oh, dude, that one, like, okay, for an okay movie, there were scenes that kind of were, like, they held me, like, they had me on the edge of my seat, like, in the movie theater. I was thinking, okay, whoa,
Yeah.
like, whoa, this is crazy.
There are
Yeah,
some films and shows that it's like this is so predictable. But with that one, I was like, wow, I have no idea what's gonna happen.
yeah,
I
yeah.
really
Especially
have
the
no
scene where he
idea.
goes, "Wait, so this guy, he's your partner? This guy right here?" Oh, whoa, that was so unexpected.
Yeah, that made me jump in my seat.
There
And
are several
I find
moments.
it,
Like, have you noticed
yeah.
that every time there's a gunshot, for some reason, it just makes you jump? Like,
Oh yeah,
for
yeah.
some reason, like when they have like this unexpected gunshot, usually like in movies, you're kind of used to gunshots, right? But for some reason, they sounded different. I don't know what it is about this movie, but I don't know.
It's
Maybe it was the movie theater, but then
it's I think it's the vibe of it, honestly, because there are and this is how I've heard conflict explained from people who were in conflict. There are long periods of peaceful waiting followed by short moments of violence. And it's like, I'll compare another movie, right? Yeah, you've seen Black Hawk Down, right?
oh yeah, and plus I've seen the
Oh right, yeah, I
extended,
remember you talking.
and I used to own the extended version on DVD.
Yeah.
So
So there were several times in Black Hawk Down where they're like driving, they're not getting shot at, then boom, they're getting shot at, right? That startles you, but it's not like these. With these, you're like kind of lulled. It's like, hey, it's just a suspicious looking road, bro. And then a sniper almost domes you from somewhere, like when you're not expecting it, right? It kind of captures at times how conflict is very mundane until it's not. And like I will say, cinematography wise, very, very good. Very, very good film.
And I would say the soundtrack, there are certain scenes where I was wondering, why did they put this song in this scene?
Very yuppie
Yeah.
soundtrack. Very yuppie soundtrack. I did
Yeah.
not resonate with the soundtrack at all. I would
Hmm.
give it like, it was fitting music, but I'd give it maybe like a 6.
Yeah. Well, guys, we warned you there will be spoilers. And so when Sammy, when he died, um, I was thinking, okay, I get what the soundtrack is trying to convey here. It's trying to make me feel emotional, but I'm not feeling
Mhm.
emotional. You know, like I'm supposed to kind of, because I want to kind of feel sorry for Sam, but I just can't because the music is not really letting me do that. It's kind of taking away from that emotion. It did not actually build on that emotion. Okay, where did Not a Spy go? Oh, there he is. Okay, you're back.
Are
You're
you
back.
alive?
Yes, we're still live. You're back. Just for some reason
Okay.
it disconnected you, but you're back. That's
Yeah.
good.
It be
Yeah.
like that, man.
So with Sammy dying, the music just did not. It took away from Sammy's death. It did not kind of like I just did not feel it. I was not embracing that emotion. I was just thinking, okay, I'm supposed to be sad. I want to be sad, but I can't be sad because the music is just destroying that moment.
All I could think of was the hot half Japanese reporter chick with the British accent. I'll be honest. She captured my attention from that moment on, man.
Yeah, but although she did fail, like near the end of the movie, because she thought, "Oh, look, they captured Nick
I
Offerman.
will,
Oh,
oh,
he's not there. He's not there."
I will say the part where they, and I don't know if this is even what they were going for, but I talked with a couple people after the movie when the limousine bursts out and they're trying to escape, right? And that chick hops out and gets shot. Apparently, all of the baby boomers thought that was Kamala Harris getting shot. Is he there? Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just like, I'm just nodding my
Like,
head.
did you talk with anyone after the film?
Well, not really. I made a few posts on social media and I talked with a few friends, but that's it.
The consensus of baby boomers was that was Kamala Harris.
Why? How
Like,
and why?
I thought it was just some like stupid
Because
secretary.
honestly, there's nothing about the Western forces that kind of striked me as being on our side, if you know what I mean.
No, and like the Boogaloo Boys, um, news to people who, yeah, we can say Boogaloo Boys because that's what they were. They had Hawaiian shirts. That's who the movie represented them as. Um, Newsflash to people: the Boogaloo Boys are more common with Antifa than actual Christians. They are godless savages, and Carthage must be destroyed. They're not your friends. The Florida Alliance, cringe. One, it's in Florida. Two, they have Boogaloo Boys. May Allah cast woe upon. Dang, I'm looking juicy. May Allah cast woe upon the Florida Alliance. Can we agree on that?
To be honest, because like we will get into the lore. We'll do a little bit of a deep dive as well. Um, Honestly, I made some assessments and I realized I would probably side more with the Florida Alliance.
Mm-mm.
Well,
Nah.
here let me explain because
Okay.
The Boogaloo Boys that we saw were actually not Floridians. They were not the Florida Alliance
I'm listening.
because not a spy. You could see this map that I'm going to show, right? You see this map?
Yes, I can.
Okay, and you see the lines. So like I mapped out like I charted out the borders. So you got this teal line right here. That's the Western forces. So like these are the borders of the factions. These are the secessionists. And in the movie they mentioned that the secessionists will turn on each other. And so right here you have the New People's Army, which is interesting because I don't remember the New People's Army being mentioned in the movie. Do you remember that?
All they mentioned them like in passing. They mention it's at the beginning. They're talking about the articles, right? It's the journalists. They're talking about like what's there left to report on, and one of them mentions Maoists in Portland and the coast.
Okay,
That
so
was it.
yeah, but I'm assuming like if you look at this map, right, and if you like, obviously this is not a perfect map, and I don't have the correct outlines for each state here. So the East Coast states like it's a little bit muddy. So it's like here's New York right here, here's New York State, here's New York City, and Pennsylvania is like right here. And so the Florida Alliance, like like they would not be way up there in Pennsylvania, like because the battle that we saw, the first actual battle that they show us, although it was very short and underwhelming, um, it kind of makes sense that that was the New People's Army. Those Boogaloo Boys were the NPA. They were not the FA. They were not the Florida Alliance.
I mean, that would make
Because
sense
if
if
you look at these lines, if you look at these lines right here, it kind of makes sense that the Western forces kind of control this area. And in the
uh
beginning of the movie, they mentioned that the Florida Alliance failed to take over the Carolinas. Of course, that's a lie because it turns out whatever Offerman is saying in the beginning of the movie, that's a lie. And,
Oh, okay.
and so it's safe to assume that like the Florida Alliance got to the Carolinas, to the border of Virginia, and then like the border of Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania. That's kind of partially shared with the WF and the NPA. So the Boogaloo
Hmm.
Boys that we saw, like I assumed they were the Florida Alliance, but I'm thinking if we go by the map, like why would, because here's the thing. See, if you guys see this purple dot right here, if I could zoom in,
Oh, I
these,
see it. Yep.
yeah, this purple dot, that's supposed to be Charlottesville. Like, and of course, that might not be 100% correct because I don't actually have the true map of the USA here.
Oh,
this
there's a problem, sir. I didn't see the statue of General Lee there. Are we in the right timeline?
but this dot right here, this purple dot, that's supposed to be Charlottesville. So in the movie, they go from Charlottesville to the capital, and the blue dot right here in this area, that's supposed to be the capital. Like this general area, that's supposed to be the capital right there. So it kind of makes no
Yeah.
sense for the Florida Alliance to kind of block off the WF and then have the WF kind of go through somehow. Um,
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. And
yeah.
if I guess Alex Garland has done more reading than I ever thought he would because especially during the riots of 2022, the Boogaloo Boys sided more with Antifa. They several times sided with Antifa actually. Because they're idiots and they have no idea what they're doing. But also because they're just crypto communists. Fight me, fight me. Um, so that would make sense for them to be with the People's Army.
Well, yeah, yeah. And why is it called the New People's Army, right? So that's probably what it is.
Wait, does that mean that there was a People's Army before?
Hmm.
That would what that okay? We're getting into some interesting digging around here.
Well, that is a good question. Why is it the New People's Army? Unless it started off as the People's Army, and then like a week later, just a brand new coup within, and immediately it just NPA. So it was just NPA from the beginning, but like
Well, it's the People's
yeah,
Army, and then it's the New People's Army, and then the Army of the People. Life of Brian reference. Have you seen that?
oh yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking
It's
about.
Judean People's Front. We're the People's Front of Judea. What are you talking
Was
about?
there another one? People's Front, Judean People's Front, and then the
Judean
front of
People's Front of Judea, and Judean Liberation Front. I think it was.
yeah,
They all
something.
hated each other.
Yeah. So let's go back to the map right here. So yeah, so we did our quick little like review. We thought it was a good movie, right?
Mhm.
It was okay. It was not
It was,
great. It was just
yeah,
okay.
yeah. If for because it's kind of one of those like if someone buys a Honda Civic and they're like it doesn't go to 150, yeah, because it's a Honda Civic, you idiot. Like this movie is not A-list material by any means. By any means is it A-list material, right? I heard a really good I saw a review, best way I've seen it described. It's an indie movie with a budget and a very bold setting. That's what it is, right? So I'm not gonna compare it to like The Hunt for the Red October, but I will say for an indie movie with a budget, it is very good.
Makes sense. Makes sense. All right. So you guys see the map pretty well, I'm assuming. And now, Spy, you see the map.
Yep.
Okay. So let's just kind of go into a little bit of the lore, into the story.
Mm-hmm.
And guys, before we continue, just make sure to send us some super chats. If you guys want to go through the Streamlabs, you can send your super chats to us. We could talk about that. And I don't see any super chats at the moment.
Oh, I just thought of a good shirt. It says, "What kind of American are you?" And it's like a Catholic or an Orthodox symbol. You should make that one.
So what is it
Do
like?
it.
Is it like Catholics and Orthodox fighting each other, or
Well, yeah, yeah,
why? Although historically it happened, true. So,
yeah.
but anyways,
That's because we're the only two based sides out there.
so anyways,
Two
so
of three.
like I kind of noticed, well, I kind of realized like a little bit after when the movie ended, I was wondering why did the army at the Charlotte front surrender so quickly? Now let's look at the map right here. See this red line? The red line is like the border for the loyalist states. So in the movie, right? So in the
Yeah.
movie, we're actually seeing the end of the Civil War. Technically, like it's the end of the Civil
Yeah,
War.
yeah.
We don't
It's
actually
like
see the whole Civil War
right.
too. So this map where it says New People's Army, the Loyalist States, the Western Forces, Florida Alliance, and this is all like kind of showing us how it started. But the movie, when you watch the movie, it's showing us the end of the Civil War.
Yeah. Huh.
So, like, now here's the thing. Look at all this territory. See this blue dot right here. This is the capital. The purple dot right here. That's the Charlottesville front that they referenced in the movie several times. And look at this territory, like from the capital up north. There's still a lot of land, a lot of territory, and there's military bases all over that territory. There's army bases, air bases, naval ports, right? So you're going to tell me that that they just surrender so easily, so quickly? Like, I'm going to try to explain to you guys why eventually, right? But here's what's interesting is that, like, I understand. Let's say the military people on the Charlottesville front. Let's just assume they decided to surrender. They were incompetent. They're too stupid. They decided to surrender. They chickened out, right?
Typical Southerners fighting in a conflict.
No, they're not Southerners. So now let's look at this map, right? Like, because I'm wondering, like, why did these guys surrender, right? And even if they did, let's assume they did. You have so much territory. Why didn't Offerman simply just retreat? He could have just retreated back and just had like a temporary capital and just fortify his positions, his defenses, and they could still have a naval fleet right here on this whole eastern seaboard right here. They could also defend the capital. So even if the army in the Charlottesville front decided to surrender, you would assume that they could still keep fighting, right? And what's that noise in the background?
That would be a garage door opening.
Oh, okay.
I kind of wish that didn't get done.
So, like, not a spy. You see the two dots. You see the blue dot and the purple dot right here, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So the purple dot is the Charlottesville front. The blue dot is the capital.
Mm-hmm.
So there's distance. So I looked up the distance between Charlottesville and the capital. It's a 2-hour drive.
120 miles or so.
2 hour, like I think the 120, 130, I forgot. But basically, it's a 2-hour drive. So that's by yourself on the freeway going 60, 70 miles an hour, right? Now imagine moving a whole army into that direction.
That could take a few days, honestly.
Well, in the movie, they show us like early in the morning, and then it's nighttime already. So it could take a while, right? And
it could take a while. Throw in a couple moods, and that can take a couple months. But I don't think Mr.
well,
Offerman.
look at this distance between the two dots, right? So in between, there should have been some sort of reserve army. There should have been some sort of reserve units who could still hold up resistance, but they're not there either. So we're assuming that the military units that are in between the Charlottesville front and the capital also surrendered, right?
But it doesn't also cover
here's the thing though. Offerman, he had multiple options. He still had time to simply just fly away. He had all this territory. He could simply get on an airplane and just fly away, right? On top of that, look at all this land and territory. There's military bases there. You're telling me that they could not send in reinforcements to the capital?
I mean, it doesn't go into depth into his manpower situation.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. In the movie, it's all happening within a week or a couple days. So
yeah, it's like a week.
Yeah, it's a week. So if it's a week, it's clearly obvious that this red line right here, it's clearly obvious that like that the United Fronts did not cross into this territory and conquered it real fast. So it'll take a while. It'll take a while to conquer all this land. So Offerman has like so much. You'd assume he would have military support right here behind him up north, and on top of that, the Pentagon is also a very great place to hide. It's basically a fortress. So President Offerman could have hid down there. right?
Yeah, yeah.
So the question is, why didn't he do all this? He had so many options. So
Because the
let's
reptilians
just
paid
assume,
him
but
to
let's
get
just
caught by the Western forces so
well
they could
here
hold him.
so here's the thing. So um why weren't these options used? Why didn't he use these options? Because even if the army that's on the front line surrendered, you you'd still have so much military might behind you. Now, here's what I believe.
Go
I
on.
believe.
But I've got to run. I've got to run. I'm out of time. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, okay. Well, hey guys. So, not a spy. He has to go. He has
Yeah,
different
sorry guys.
commitments. So, you guys are stuck with me now.
Bye. Take it easy,
All
man.
right. Take care. God bless, man.
God bless. Keep safe.
Okay, guys. So, not a spy. He is gone. So, you guys are stuck with me. All right. So, let's go back to this map. So, look at this map right here. Why didn't the president use these options? Like, he could have went north. He could have hid in the Pentagon. Well, it's possible that the Western forces are actually the United States forces. Now think about this. Offerman in the movie, if we watch the movie carefully, if we listen carefully to what's going on, we would realize that Offerman is a third-term president. And so I believe he got rid of all the other branches of government, the judicial and legislative. And so Offerman is kind of becoming this dictator. And he's a third-term president. And you could say, well, the Western forces, if they are fighting for the original United States, how come they have like this different flag? Well, it started off with two states, Texas and California, uniting, combining their forces. So it could be a temporary symbol. If you guys watch the end of the movie, when they finish off Offerman, in the background, when they do like a photo, they do like this photo op where the soldiers are standing above Offerman and his whole body. There's a United States flag behind them. You'd assume that they would just tear down this flag if this is the flag of the enemy. See, Offerman, he's claiming to be like this continuation of the United States, but he disbanded other governing bodies. And guys, let me just expand myself here since perfect, since Not a Spy is gone. Okay. So Offerman, why doesn't he not use his options to escape? Like we'll get into that. But what's interesting is that you'd assume that like they would just push down the enemy flag. Well, the flag that the Western forces are using is temporary. It could be like their battle flag as they're fighting. So in the movie, they also are not interested in capturing Offerman alive. Like they don't want to arrest him. They don't want to put him on trial. Why? There's a possibility that he could claim legitimacy of some sort. He could claim that his trial is illegal. There could be some other loopholes that could be found, and maybe he could run for president later. He could be an inspiration for other future rebellions again. That is why they don't want to put Offerman on trial. They simply delete him. They delete him. Like, and those are their orders. Like in the movie, they specifically say several times, they say no negotiations, no arresting, no trial, just straight up deletion. Offerman has to be gone. And where am I going with this? So, sorry guys, lost my train of thought. And Offerman, he's basically not actually the continuation of the United States. It's the Western forces that are continuing the United States. The current United States Constitution that we know of, the Constitutional Republic, that's the Western forces. The Loyalist states, so on this map it says Loyalist states. but they could be loyalist to Offerman. These are loyalist states to Offerman. These are not loyalist states in the sense that they are loyal to our constitutional republic. They are loyal to Offerman. That's why they're loyalist states. And I'm assuming the Civil War in the movie did not last too long, maybe a year or two, maybe 3 years. And I've asked multiple times already, how come Offerman did not go north? Why didn't he simply just go north? He simply could have went north and he'd be safe. He had so many ways to escape. And on top of that, he could have stayed in the capital and simply relied on the reinforcements from the north to come support him, to come protect the capital, to help stall the Western forces. And none of that happens. None of that happens. How come? How come Offerman, he's not taking advantage of anything? He just simply, just stays in the White House with the Capitol that really has no defense. The only people defending the Capitol are just a few diehard, loyal soldiers. Why? Why isn't there anyone else to help him, to protect him? Why can't he escape anywhere? Why doesn't he escape anywhere? Why does he just let it all happen like this so quickly? And I believe that there was some internal betrayal from the top brass of the military. Now think about this. The Offerman becomes a 3-term president. And the military, he's their commander-in-chief. And so the top brass simply are thinking, okay, we got to follow orders because we're sworn to do that. But they're also trying to prevent any form of violence. So they're kind of just assuming that, things will be better if they just kind of, don't stage any coups. They just follow orders of their commander-in-chief. And then he starts, getting rid of legislative branches like Congress, the Senate, then the judicial branch. He gets rid of that. He disbands other organizations. And then what could have happened is that this triggers other states to secede. So the Florida Alliance is created. The Western forces of Texas and California are created because they want to restore the current constitutional republic that we're currently living in. At the same time, I guess you could say that the New People's Army are basically the American version of socialists or Antifa. And they're also formed. They also start off. And so you have the split. So what you see right here, this is simply before the events of the movie. So we start seeing this divide right here. The New People's Army in the north, like the Midwest and parts of the Pacific Northwest. And then you have California, Texas. They start the Western forces and the Loyalist states. In the beginning of the movie, we see riots in New York. New York is part of the Loyalist states. But people, for some reason, if you watch the movie, you'd notice in the Loyalist states, there's kind of this chaos, disorder. Now, in states controlled by the Western forces and NPA, yeah, there's some chaos because of the shootouts. But when they're going through the small town, everything's fine. Everything's okay and peaceful in the secessionist areas. And so when you think about this, the people who seceded, they did not really secede from the United States as we know it. They seceded from Offerman and his regime. And they're trying to restore the current system we have now. If you guys played Fallout New Vegas, it's kind of similar to the New California Republic. It's the New California Republic, but their goal is to eventually spread out to the East Coast and to restore the United States. And the Western forces, that's what they're trying to do. So going back to this map right here, it's possible that within a year or two, the loyalist states were absorbed. They were absorbed by the Western forces and the New People's Army, and maybe parts of them were absorbed by the Florida Alliance. Or it's possible that the Florida Alliance was just constantly focusing on the Carolinas, because you go through the Carolinas, you go into Virginia, and you could reach the capital. And that's probably another reason why Offerman mentions the Carolinas in the beginning of the movie. He's trying to reassure the citizens in his territories that everything's fine and that the Carolinas are still in their control, which is definitely a lie. Because what we see in the movie is simply the end of the Civil War. It's literally one more week and it's over. And so I mentioned betrayal. So what's going on is that the top brass of the military decided, okay, so the president is strong. There's governors. So you have loyalist states. These loyalist states are probably more like the governors of those states, submitting to the authority of Offerman. But the people themselves probably don't necessarily support Offerman. And it's possible that because of this, this lack of moral support for Offerman, it's possible that the Western forces were able to easily plow through the loyalist states with the help of the New People's Army. They probably also assisted the Western forces, and obviously, this is probably what it would look like. This yellow line is probably so when you're watching the movie, the beginning of the movie, this is probably what the map actually looks like. You have this territory right here, like Michigan and Wisconsin, controlled by the NPA. All these loyalist states are no longer loyalist controlled. They're probably controlled by the Western forces. This teal line that I drew up, this is probably the Western forces. And this black line represents the Florida Alliance. And the top brass decided, you know what? Okay, so Offerman, he has some support. And what we're going to do, so what the top brass decided, probably, most likely, is that they will follow orders of their commander-in-chief, of course. But they will follow them haphazardly. They would follow them they'll follow them, but at the same time, not really fight against the Western forces. So they would fight, but haphazardly. So if there's a victory, cool. If there isn't a victory, whatever. We'll just kind of pretend that we're loyalists or something. So they were loyal to. They decided to be loyal until they realized that they have no power. So the top brass decided, okay, so if we're going to win, we'll just kind of stay, in our positions as the top generals, top admirals. But if we're going to start to lose the war, then we'll just kind of switch sides and keep our positions and just kind of, serve the United States as we served before. That's probably what the top brass was thinking. So they were following orders, but they were kind of doing everything haphazardly. That's probably why the Western forces were able to just plow through. And if you just look at the uniforms, of the Western forces and Offerman's forces, the loyalist states, they're not really so different. If you watch the Western forces, you'd assume those are just regular U.S. troops. And if you look at the military equipment that they're using, it's not so different. It's the same equipment basically. And of course, both sides will be using the same equipment, but the Western forces looked very much just regular American troops that we are used to seeing. And the top generals who are serving Offerman, they're just waiting until the moment that they would start losing. And if they decided, hey, if we start losing, we'll just simply switch sides. And that's it. And that is why you see this gap right here in the map, in the purple dot and the blue dot. There's just no resistance there. And an Offerman, he probably had nowhere to go. He could not go to the north because the generals who are commanding whatever military bases are in the northern areas in New England, New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, they were all probably in on it with the top brass at the Capitol. They probably decided, okay, So we're going to follow your orders, generals. If you guys surrender, then we surrender too. That's probably what happened. They decided that they're just going to abandon Offerman. That is why Offerman, he's not hiding at the Pentagon. He's not going into any airports to fly away. He has no other place to be, just at his White House. That's his only fortification left. That's his only defense. He has no escape. And you'd assume that there would be some sort of naval support. Where is the naval support? And just look at the map, like look at this blue dot, and there are naval bases there. How come there's no naval support? No one's supporting Offerman. It's because the top brass decided that once they start losing, they'll simply switch sides, and that's probably what happened. Top brass decided, okay, dish this guy, it's over, and that is why. That is why the whole Charlottesville front. There were no, like in the movie, we did not see any major battle. We did not see any battle for Charlottesville. Nothing. Simply, so very easily, the whole army just surrenders, and the generals surrender. But one will wonder, but aren't there generals in Jersey, New York, Maine, Massachusetts? Other military forces up there that could reinforce the capital. No one's available. How come? It's probably because all the commanders simply decided to just ditch Offerman. That's the only explanation. Offerman was ditched at the end. They decided, you know what? It's not. Let's just switch sides and just continue serving the United States military. Now, in the movie, they mentioned that the secessionists will eventually turn on each other. And I'm assuming that so we obviously don't see this in the movie. We don't see this in the movie, but it's possible that the secessionists eventually will turn on each other. So the Western forces they regained all this territory. So going back to the map, they regained all this territory. They regained the capital. And assuming that all the military commanders, all the generals that are in New England, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, they all probably just switch sides. And so we could easily say that overnight, all this territory simply just returned to the United States, well, what we call the Western forces. Because the Western forces, they don't desecrate the United States flag. They just keep it the way it is. And basically, the Western forces are simply a continuation or a restorationist movement to restore the United States that we know of. And then, so once the capital is taken over, the Western forces are probably going to try to restore order. But the new People's Army that's formed, they're probably going to want to stay the way they are. And so that will cause a conflict for the Western forces. And, well, I would say after the movie's over, once the movie's over, I think they'll simply just rename themselves the United States of America. And this time, the USA will have to continue their fight with the NPA and the Florida Alliance. The Florida Alliance is probably thinking, okay, well, we just want to be on our own too. We want to return to you guys, because you guys produced this dictator in the first place, so why should we go back to you guys? So it's possible that the war is not completely over. So in the movie, we see the end of the war, apparently, but is it really the end of the war? They don't show it, but it's highly possible that the NPA and the Florida Alliance could simply continue fighting against the Western forces. Now, the Western forces regaining all of New York, Pennsylvania, and Jersey, and New England, all of New England right there, it's highly possible that they've got fresh new troops. They have a stronger army now because a lot of soldiers switched to their side. So the Florida Alliance and the New People's Army might have some trouble in their hands because the Western forces got a fresh new batch of troops and more resources. They basically take control of New York. That's a huge city right there. Philadelphia, Boston, yeah, all that territory, all those resources. And so the Florida Alliance and New People's Army, they would have to kind of figure out how to fight the Western forces, or they'll probably just have to just surrender and be reincorporated into the USA. But that's just all mystery. So we don't really know what's going to happen after the movie. We just see Offerman being deleted, and that's it. So, that's my whole theory. That's my whole theory about why Offerman could not go anywhere. Because I'm thinking, dude, you could just escape. Why are you just sitting there? Like, you have like no more major supporters. And then I was thinking, but wait a minute, they have all this territory up north. They could just use the reinforcements. There's so many military bases there. Or Offerman could have at least moved to like another city up north and create a temporary capital up there. Something. He could have escaped to Greenland a long time ago, because in the movie, at the end of the film, this one lady, she decides to negotiate with the Western forces. And she wanted them to guarantee that they will allow Offerman to go to a neutral territory, either Alaska, which is probably a loyalist state, or to Greenland. Greenland's obviously not part of the United States, but Greenland belongs to Denmark. And so obviously Greenland is part of a different country, therefore the Western forces would not risk fighting another country at the moment. And so the Western forces, they kind of like lied to the woman and they tell her, just bring him out here, we'll take care of him real good, implying that they were going to delete him. And so eventually they realized this woman, like they don't want to talk to her anymore. They just delete her on the spot. They said, just delete her, man, delete her, boom, and she's gone. And I'm just going to assume that the top brass of the military of the loyalist states decided to just switch sides. That's the only way they were able to simply end it so quickly overnight. Literally, what happened, like the whole battle, like the whole capture of Offerman, it happened overnight. Offerman had no support. It was basically over really quick. And I theorize that's probably what happened. Top brass decided, okay, screw this guy. Like, we did what we can, quote unquote. They did what they can. Yeah, sure, and big quotation marks, and they failed. So like it was kind of all haphazard from the beginning. Top brass decided, okay, like let's just kind of stay united, keep the country united. We're not going to do any coups. Oh, looks like the Western forces are doing pretty well. Okay, we'll do some defenses right here. Okay, well, oh no, we lost some cities. Oh no, okay, like the Western forces are already in Charlottesville. Okay, this is a good time to switch sides. And that's it. Top brass simply got reincorporated. They simply got incorporated into the Western forces, basically back into the United States. So the Western forces, they are the continuation of the USA. So will there be a Civil War II? And maybe they'll show the secessionists fighting each other. But so I do believe that the Western forces are simply a continuation of the current United States. And the loyalist states, they are not the USA. The loyalist states are simply loyal to Offerman, to this new third-term dictator. And those are my theories. Like unfortunately, not Spy. He's not here to comment on his theories, what he thought about the movie. Well, he said what he thought about the movie, but he's not mentioning his theories. I wish he was here, but he had to go. And let's look at the chats real quick. Any chats? Yeah, no one's chatting tonight. Yeah, you guys suck. All right, any super chats? No super chats either. Well, guys, yeah, so that's the whole review, and that's the whole deep dive. So, yeah, like I personally think that the Western forces are the continuation of the USA. The loyalist forces were not. It's kind of interesting because it was the assumption in the trailer well, not in the trailer, but on the map. This map right here, when you when you see it online prior to watching the movie, you're going to assume that the Loyalist states, they are the USA. But when you think about it, the Loyalist states are not the USA. The Western forces are. They are the USA. They're the continuation. Yeah. But so what we got a chat right here. Let's see. You don't want to hear what I have to say about the spy dude. Well, okay, whatever. So anyways, it's possible that the Western forces were able to plow through the Loyalist states because there's probably no moral support. There's probably no moral support for the Loyalist states from the population. So the governors, they're probably loyal to Offerman. But the people and the local law enforcement and the local politicians probably did not support Offerman. And so therefore, it's probably very easy for the Western forces to just plow through and get really close to the capital. And not just the Western forces, that includes the NPA. And what else would I like to talk about? What else have in the movie that we'd not discuss? I guess that's it. I mean, I kind of expected the movie to show a lot more, but we saw literally just the end of the Civil War in the Civil War film. And I guess the whole point of the movie was to show what it could look like, right? So they did not really have to show lots of battles. They just simply showed how people would act. Like there's a scene, I'm assuming that that's the NPA territory, because what I liked about the movie, what I really liked about the movie is that they showed a checkpoint. So when they are leaving the Loyalist territories and they're going into the secessionist territory, they do show an actual military checkpoint, checking them out, searching their car, looking at their IDs, and then letting them go through. And then another civilian, another group of civilians was going into the Loyalist states. And I like that because that's kind of more realistic. Now, I wish they showed multiple checkpoints, but that one was enough. But the purpose of a checkpoint is to also kind of warn of enemies coming in. So if you have enemies trying to attack in a certain location, the checkpoints, they're usually the first ones to be attacked, and they could hold off the enemy for as long as they can. On top of that, they can send a warning saying, hey, the enemy is breaking through right here at this specific location. And usually there should be like 2 or 3 checkpoints. So you have a checkpoint right here, then like 2 miles away, there should be another checkpoint. So, right. Let's read the comments. Oh, holy, my chat and comments work now. YouTube muted me for a while. Thanks for the reply. Sure. So, guys, so I was talking about the checkpoints. I kind of liked that they showed that in the movie. That's actually very realistic. And that's logical. That's how it should be. And when they cross into the NPA, they don't really show the NPA checkpoints, which kind of just shows that the NPA is basically just a very interesting people's army. And I like how they show the economy is so bad on the NPA side. What's interesting is that the economy is really bad on the NPA side, that they're willing to sell sandwiches for $300. And Kirsten Dunst offers them 300 Canadian dollars because apparently they were not willing to give gas for $300. They're simply saying you could buy a sandwich for $300, but not gas. So Kirsten Dunst says 300 Canadian. That's when they changed their tune and they're like thinking, okay, we could do 300 Canadian. So imagine how bad the economy is on the secessionist side. So I kind of like that. It was very grim. Like they showed the other side, like they're showing like the front line areas, and it's kind of grim on the front lines. But when they go deeper into West Virginia and some small town, all of a sudden, like it's just calm and peaceful. Of course, in the movie they ask, "Are we in a time warp? It's so calm and peaceful here." Well, well, the thing about civil wars, if you study history, not every place is destroyed. Not every place is like turned into this like crap hole. And there will be some towns that are not really affected, like through the war. They could be affected economically, but other than that, they could still be peaceful. They could be not wrecked by the war. Like maybe like military forces could go through those towns, but not necessarily hold on to them or not necessarily view them as important. So that stuff is common in civil wars. If you study history, not every town is destroyed. Not every town is dirty. Plus, what's interesting is that there are several fields that they were going through. They're very nice, beautiful fields, and I was thinking like why are they surprised that there's a nice looking town and everything's functioning in this town? Like so, like I kind of don't get that part. Thinking because you showed us some very nice, beautiful fields that are obviously taken care of by the landowners. So I don't get it. Okay, some more comments. If they do make CW2, do you think it would be a prequel or a sequel? It would be interesting to see the intensity of a full CW instead of the ending. Yeah, a prequel would be nice to kind of show us more battle scenes, to show us how it starts. That would be interesting. And I would say a so a prequel would be good, but a sequel would be good too to see the secessionists fight and to also explain why did all the military commanders just surrender. That would kind of give more of an explanation. But I think my theory is correct that the top brass initially from the very beginning was kind of doing things haphazardly. They were loyal, but not really loyal. They're kind of just they're loyal to their oaths, but they're not loyal morally. Like spiritually, they're not loyal to Offerman. And then at the end, they decide, okay, this is a good time to drop the guy. Boom. Because Offerman, like if things were fine with him, like if the military was fine with him fighting, if they were okay fighting for him, he's still like it would not be so easy to just capture the capital like that. So there was basically a military coup, like without actually doing a military coup. So so what's interesting is that like the top brass, they themselves don't actually arrest Offerman. They just kind of allow the secessionists, the Western forces, to just come in and take care of them themselves. So that's interesting. Okay. Right, so Bungalow is saying, think Ukraine, for example. Donbass line is hell, but near Kiev and Lviv are calm. Yeah, true. So yeah, in the Ukrainian civil war, prior to Russia invading in 2022, in the Donbass regions, it was mostly calm in Kiev. People were living their life as if there is no civil war. Like the Donbass, like they're in a very intense situation, but Kiev and Lviv, they're just going to restaurants, enjoying their life, while the people in Donbass were suffering. But yeah, so in general, the movie was okay. I mean, I'd recommend it just to see it. Don't do what I did. I went all out. I got myself like a huge Coke. No, it was not even a Coke. It was a Pepsi. It was a huge Pepsi. And I got myself a super pretzel. It was a mediocre pretzel. It was not really. I expected like a huge pretzel. It was like this regular sized pretzel. Maybe slightly bigger than a regular pretzel, but that's it. Yeah, so I had altogether it was like $30. Inflation's really bad, guys. Inflation sucks, and I literally paid like a huge amount of money for just to watch a mediocre movie, basically. It was an okay film. It was very underwhelming. Based on the trailer, I expected something more because I did not care if it had some level of wokeness. I just wanted to see the action. I wanted to see the intensity. And there were intense moments. There were very intense moments that had me on the edge of my seat, but that was not really the whole movie, unfortunately. And I was assuming they're going from the West Coast all the way to the East Coast. I thought they were just traveling and they're witnessing how the war changes. and I was assuming that there would be like some time jumps where they would start in the beginning of the war, middle of the war, and end of the war. But it was not like that. It was more like, okay, the war is going to end in a week. Now we don't know this, but in the movie, near the end of the film, like when you calculate everything, yeah, it was just a whole week. They're gone for a week and the war is over. They're on this road trip for a whole week and boom, the war is over. Yeah, but okay, Bungaloid says, I think if they did a prequel, they should start like a year or so before the event that catalyzes into a full-on hot CW. Super pretzel. Yes, Mongoloid. It was a super pretzel. Yeah, super pretzel. Nothing super about it. Now, the soda was huge. It was like literally like this big. But yeah, like, yeah, I spent like $30 on the whole thing because I decided I'll go all out. I'm just going to party it up. And yeah, it wasn't what I expected. It wasn't what I expected. I expected some epicness. Like I was expecting wokeness, but simultaneously I was thinking, fine, they'll throw in some wokeness in there, but then they'll kind of, also add some action. It was they had action, but not the action that we expected, not the huge epic action that we wanted. And that's why the movie was just okay. So I was glad that they did not have the wokeness, but then I was thinking, okay, are you going to show us more instead of just this road trip of photojournalists? So it was okay. It was an okay movie. Kirsten Dunst, she's a believable character. Wagner Moreau, I think that's the name of the actor. He's believable. The guy playing Sammy, I forgot his name, but he's a very famous actor. He did good. And the young actress, I don't know her name either. But yeah, all four characters, they were believable. They were, they did a good job acting in the movie. So the acting was good. Okay, another comment. It's pretty bad with inflation where I am. Food is nearly unpurchasable because of how expensive it is. Yes. Now imagine if for real Civil War kicked off. Inflation will be through the roof. Yeah. But that was, I believe, the point of the movie was just to kind of show what it could look like. Like even with the Civil War ending, like nearing the end, it's still pretty bad. They're still showing how people hate each other and yeah. And did I mention the Boogaloo Boys? Yes, I did mention the Boogaloo Boys earlier. So I told Not a Spy when he was here, I told him that like it just makes no sense for the Florida Alliance because you look at this map, those Boogaloo Boys were not Florida. I thought they were, but then when you look at this map carefully, and it just kind of makes sense. Like in the movie, within the movie, it just kind of makes no sense for the Florida Alliance to be all the way controlling Pennsylvania and then not partaking in the capture of the capital. Kind of made no sense. So yeah, so most likely the Florida Alliance simply focused on the Carolinas, and then the Western forces were free to just go to the capital because another reason being that the military surrendered. And Bongaloid has another comment. Let's see. The thing about it, there are people that make books and manuscripts of people that have been fighting through civil wars, places like Yugoslavia and Brazil or Argentina. That was bad. Yeah, that was pretty bad. Yugoslavia was a bad situation. Yeah, the Russian Civil War was pretty bad as well. And it was very interesting. The Russian Civil War from 1917 up until 1921. Some people say up until 1922, and some people say 1923. I go with the 1923 thing because, like, General Pip Alive did this one final attempt. Like, he conquered one small town, then another small town, and then he and his forces were crushed. He had 500 soldiers with him, and that's technically where I believe the Russian Civil War ended right there, like, completely. Yeah. But the Russian Civil War is pretty interesting because you had like a combination of modern technology with some old technology. And when I say old technology, I'm talking about the cavalry, the horses. So you'd have like cavalry guys with swords, and they'll have sword fights. And they did that in the First World War. The First World War, you had a lot of cavalry charges. You had cavalry soldiers fighting each other, and cavalry, they're still effective, in the field. But at the same time, like, you're dealing with modern machine guns, you're dealing with tanks, and the Russian Civil War had that too. They had armored trucks that were used in the First World War and used in the Russian Civil War, and like the armored trucks would basically be like here's a truck driver driving, and then on the side, on the rear side, on the back, on the left and right side, you'd have two machine gunners, one on the left, one on the right, and like that was like the armored truck right there. And then you had some tanks that the Russians would borrow, well, not borrow, but they would buy from the British. And so there were actual tanks that were used in the Russian Civil War. And then you had like cavalry, so you still had guys on horseback swinging their swords, having sword fights. Yeah, and then they had trenches, of course. They're still using trench warfare. So it's kind of interesting. It was this combination of old and new technology, old and new. It was like this transition zone from the old to the new. So the Russian Civil War was pretty interesting. More comments from Bongoloid. Escaping and evading bandits or opposition groups was the hardest thing. Winding down of wars is rarely an overnight. Insurgent attacks and small cells of resistance are important to predict and get rid of after CW. Yes. Usually after civil wars are over, there are resistance groups that continue for a while. And actually, even during World War II, after World War II, like in Western Ukraine, there were some Banderites people fighting up until like 1950. Actually, not even that, like up until 1956, I believe. In Western Ukraine, in the mountains, there were still some Banderites holdovers fighting up until like 1955, 1956. Yeah, but so if you guys want to see the movie, just don't do what I did. Don't do what I did. Don't go all out. Don't spend too much money on the movie. Don't buy like large amounts of popcorn. Don't buy any super pretzels, and maybe get yourself a soda, and get yourself like a medium soda or a small soda. Don't get a large soda, because the movie itself is not really worth the large soda. It's not worth the extra large popcorn. It's not worth any super pretzels. So yeah, watch the movie, judge for yourself. But it was an okay film, and I'm going to just sign out, guys. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Also support the channel. Go to Streamlabs, send in a donation through Streamlabs. Also go to the merch page. There's a link in the description below, so check out the merch. Buy the new Jesus Christ is King. There's the Arabic version, there's the Hebrew version. So support the channel. Buy